John Bruton is the former Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, and he joins us now from Dublin. Mr. Bruton, it's an interesting dilemma that Ireland faces, and certainly a lot of attention is being paid to this vote. But the interesting thing is that even if Ireland votes no, it's going to have no impact on the fiscal treaty. There just seems to be downside for Ireland with a no vote.
Yes, the fiscal treaty will come into effect once 12 of the 17 eurozone member states have ratified it, and there's no doubt that the remaining 16 will ratify it. If Ireland were to vote no, that would mean, according to the terms of the fiscal treaty, that we wouldn't be eligible even to apply for the European Stability Mechanism, which is the new permanent fund that would be available. And that absence of that choice, I think, would have an immediate effect on interest rates on lending to not only the Irish government but also to large Irish businesses, which would have a dampening effect on jobs. So I think we would feel the effect in the jobs market of a no vote, a negative effect, quite quickly. And then there's also the fact that if Ireland votes no, that may send a message to Greece, which could lead to the growth in support, further growth in support for the anti-bailout parties in Greece, which could lead then to a Greek exit from the euro, which could lead to a whole series of knock-on damage within the eurozone. So I think Ireland doesn't want, I think, in its own interest, to put itself in that position by voting no, and should therefore vote yes.
If Ireland, though, votes no, does it mean that it also needs to, at the end of the day, leave the eurozone?
No, I don't think so. In fact, it's not legal for a country to leave the eurozone. People talk very freely about Greece leaving the eurozone, and I mentioned the possibility myself a moment ago, but the mechanisms for a country to leave the eurozone are not very clear. What could happen would be that the European Central Bank would stop supporting the Greek banks because it didn't think that the collateral that the Greek banks were offering was adequate. That could lead to an immediate collapse in the Greek banking system, which would have disastrous effects for the Greek population. But in and of itself, that doesn't mean that Greece leaves the euro. It just becomes more expensive for it to stay in the euro because its debts would still be in euros, but its earning power to be able to repay those debts would have been reduced by the collapse of its banking system induced by a rejection of the bailout. So it's something of that. It's quite a complex sequence that could occur.
But essentially it has to leave the euro. If it can't finance itself, then at some point, even if it is illegal, I'm sure that they'll allow it to leave the euro because the situation is just completely unsustainable.
Well, nobody has said that officially. It's possible, but of course leaving the euro doesn't solve anything. I mean, the debts still exist in euros, and if one sets up a new currency, it probably will be worth, not 1 for 1, but maybe 50% of what the previous euro was worth, which would mean that you'd have to pay twice in terms of your own currency to repay a debt that was denominated in euros. So that isn't a particularly appetizing situation unless one is going to walk away from one's debts altogether. But if one does that, the whole banking system in not just Europe but the world is at risk.
Yeah, and I think they would be unheard of to actually do that, but entirely possible for a eurozone country to simply say we won't pay this, and I think that's the debate. Mr. Bruton, can I talk to you about the situation in Ireland more specifically? Do you think that the Debt Management Office is getting close to being able to issue new debt for Ireland? The mood amongst investors has improved.
Yes, I mean, the markets are making a big distinction now between Ireland and the other countries, and with reason. Unit labour costs have fallen in Ireland more. The construction industry has come down to a lower level. House prices are probably below the natural level that they should be at the moment in Ireland, whereas they're still above their natural level in Spain, and construction activity is even still above what's sustainable in Spain. So Ireland has made the adjustment, and the market is beginning to see that. So I think Ireland has a reasonable prospect of being able to re-enter the markets, but it would always be useful for us to know that at any given time we could apply for the ESM if we needed to, and that's what it's at stake in this referendum. If we vote yes, we will have that possibility. If we vote no, we won't.
And if Ireland can't access the ESM, does it also mean that possibly you could look at defaulting?
I think that's not in question. Ireland doesn't need to default. Ireland, indeed, has been the most attractive country in Europe as far as foreign direct investment is concerned. We've got our balance of payments now in order. We have a balance of payments surplus, whereas most of the other countries have a balance of payments deficit. So we're bringing in more money into Ireland than we're spending out of Ireland, which puts us in a very, very good position to be able to meet our obligations. And for a country that is so dependent on foreign direct investment, even mention that word is utterly foolish. It's not a possibility, it's not a likelihood, and it's not necessary.
It's an interesting debate at the moment we're having surrounding Spain and how it deals with its property debate, its property problems. You've experienced NAMA. Did NAMA work? Is NAMA working? Will it repay the money? Will the Irish taxpayer get the money back? And do you think it is the right model for Spain?
I think certainly others who have the same problem that Ireland has and Spain does should come and look at how NAMA has worked. A lot of people criticise it. It has taken a lot of bad debts off the hands of the banks with the intention of allowing the banks to get back into normal banking business. It has been disposing of those relatively slowly, but on the other hand, it is possibly waiting for the market to reach a floor and begin to rise again before it disposes of property, so it doesn't want to be accused of selling assets that now belong to the taxpayer for less than they're worth. So there's always a balance to be struck here, but it has, if you like, relieved the banks of some of their responsibilities for their own mistakes, enabling them to slim down and get on with banking. Now, there are some people who are criticising the banks for being insufficiently adequate in offering credit to small businesses, and that could be construed as an indirect criticism of the Irish model. On the other hand, we have, as I said earlier, got our house prices and our property prices down to their natural floor and possibly even below it. So we have made the adjustment, which gives us a platform for growth. Spain, in some senses, has not yet made the adjustment, either in labour costs or property prices or construction activity.
Mr. Bruton, what are the chances of Spain needing a bailout very soon?
Well, it's not one that I could really judge. Clearly, what Spain needs is confidence and time. Whether it needs some injection of confidence from Europe as a whole is a matter to be judged. I would make the point, though, that Spain's export performance is pretty good. It's a good deal better, say, than France's or Italy's. Spain has bounced back in that area, so there is a reasonably solid basis for investing in Spain.
And overall, if Spain needs a bailout, talk to me through your worst case scenario at the moment. It's something that we kind of like to get a feel of. If Spain were to ask a bailout, what does it mean for Irish borrowing costs?
Well, I think it would have some. If Spain needs a bailout, it will have a negative effect for everybody, and everybody in Europe, on the principle of solidarity, will have to contribute to that. So it's not a good scenario at all. On the other hand, as I've explained, Ireland is in a relatively stronger position now than it was even a year ago to be able to ride through that storm. I believe that the fundamentals of the Spanish economy are good. The labour market reorganisation that they've undertaken in the last few months is going to make Spain a much more dynamic economy 2 to 3 years from now. And Spain needs perhaps 2 to 3 years for the full effect of those reforms to be given a chance to work and for them to enable Spain to resume a growth path. That's why perhaps it would be wise for Europe to buy some time here.
Is there a concern that actually things and events can unfold and unravel very quickly? If we were to see a Greek exit or a Spanish bailout, then it would take a lot of countries down with them.
I think the very important thing now is for all of the European authorities to speak with one voice, for the member states to speak with the same voice as the European Central Bank, as the European Commission, as the Council of Eurozone Ministers, that everybody should have the same message. It should be a message that gives confidence, gives a sense to people that there is a safety net either in place or ready to be put in place, so that people can proceed to deal in a rational and deliberate way with genuine problems rather than find themselves in a panic which no one can control.
Mr. Bruton, just finally, assuming that Ireland votes yes in this referendum, do you think it would vote yes to ceding full taxation control to Brussels. Do you think that the
No.
Irish would be happy to do that?
No, they won't. They won't
Okay.
do that. But that doesn't arise.
You-
There
you don't
was an
think-
attempt in the early phase of the negotiation of the fiscal compact to make some provision in regard to a harmonisation of corporate taxation. That was rejected. It's not there. It's not part of the package. In fact, Ireland has made it very clear that it would not support that. And it's only something that could be introduced under EU law by unanimity, and there will not be unanimity. Ireland would not be alone in opposing any proposal to standardise corporation tax or other taxes in Europe.
So a full union would not be possible?
You haven't got uniform tax rates in the states
Yeah.
of the United States. You have some states in the US have income tax, others don't.
Yep.
Some have. Some have different levels of property tax. It's quite normal, even in a mature federation that's existed for 200 years like the United States, for there to be variations in tax policy and for there to be competition. States in the southern part of the United States have been
Yep.
competing to get businesses to relocate there. That's perfectly normal. It's part of the efficiency that a federation can create.
We must leave it there. John Bruton, thank you very much indeed.